Hey everybody, welcome back to Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And in this video, we're going to do kind of a mix breakdown of a song I just finished up for a client, and I want to tell you a little bit about his music. And before I take it off the console and move on to the next project, I thought you might find it interesting to kind of do a mix breakdown, listen to the track. We'll break down what we kind of did here and give you an overall look at how I kind of mixed and processed this particular track. So before we get started, if you like what you see in the video, please consider subscribing. Also hit the notification bell so you know when I post new content. And if you want to support the channel and you like what I do here, consider hitting the thanks button underneath this video. So let's talk about this track. So this track is by a client of mine and a longtime student, Brandon Van Allen. You'll see his image come up on the screen somewhere. He is a musician, composer, producer, and a teacher. Teaches voice, guitar, bass, piano, songwriting, and all of that stuff. I'll leave all the links in the description box for him below so you can go check out his website if you're in the market for lessons or you're in the market for a producer or someone to help you with your songwriting or anything like that. Brandon is really great, easy to work with, super great guy. And he also writes and records his own music, and I mix all of his music for him. So one of the songs that we're going to take a listen to today is his latest track, Let the Singing Do the Talking. You'll see it here. You'll see it up here when we check out Studio One here in a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of break down, and we're going to kind of listen to certain sections and kind of tell you how I processed it and what hardware I used. I'm not going to go through every single setting, and I'm not going to show you how this is not mixing the song live. This has already been done. He's already signed off the mix. I've already delivered him the final product. He's very happy with it, and it's a great tune, and I look forward to bringing you more of Brandon's music in the future. He has been so kind to allow me to use this music here on YouTube and to allow me to share this with you. So again, make sure you check out his links in the description box. He's really, really good. I love his music. Anyway, let's go over here to Studio One, and let's check out kind of the layout of the session here and kind of show you what we're dealing with, and then we'll listen to some tracks. Okay, here we go. So we're here in Studio One, and here is Brandon right here. He's also a live performer as well. Let the Singing Do the Talking. Brandon Van Allen is the artist, and there is the song. And so what we're going to do quickly here is this is the final print track here in yellow. This is the final mix that Brandon signed off on. So let's go ahead and let's just take a listen to maybe the first verse and chorus so you can kind of get a feel for what we have here, and then I'll kind of break it down section by section. Here we go.
I'm just gonna stop myself right here before I get way deep into trouble. I was never good expressing my emotions in the moment. Let me spare you before I stumble. Let me think about it for a while. Put up my feet and soak, maybe even grab a joint and take a toke. Here's an idea, what if I sing? 'Cause I won't risk doing this talking thing. I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking. I don't know how you're doing it, but my words are better when sung, so I'll let the singing do the talking. Ooh. Sometimes, but just know that your love will always be enough. Always be enough. Impressing you is just like a game. I might win some, I might lose some, but you always make it tough. Always make it tough. Let me think about it for a while. Put up my feet and soak, maybe even grab a joint and take a toke. Here's an idea, what if I sing? Because I won't risk doing this talking thing. I let the singing do the talking. doing it, but my words are better when sung, so I'll let the singing do the talking. Ooh. Why do we have to be stuck in my head, stubborn as a bull? You're guaranteed to get the horns unless you can tame the wild beast with a sweet, sweet song. Ooh. And talking to me is like a slippery slope. You might as well be talking to a mumbling dope. Who doesn't know what the hell he's talking about? Even if you got every single word written down, it's so hard to spit out. It's so hard to spit out. But if you give me a chance to say what I'm saying, you'll be fully aware and more able to understand exactly what I'm relaying to you right here. I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking. I don't know how you're doing it, but my words are better when sung, so I'll let the singing do the talking. Singing to the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking. I don't know how you're doing it, but my words are better when sung, so I'll let the singing do the talking. Do the talking, baby.
Okay, so we let you listen to the whole tune there. It's just such a good tune. Great, great song. So Brandon not only wrote that song, he writes, he plays every instrument on there. The instrumentation is a mixture of software instruments and real instruments. He's a one-man show. He does it all. Great, great, great performer, great singer, just everything. Really, really good. Again, check all the links in the description box. Go show Brandon some love. That'll be a way to thank him for letting us use this as a demonstration. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, let's see, I can get rid of that print track because he's already got the files. So let's go to this and let's bring this back here. So let's take a look at what we kind of have here for a session. It's not a very complicated, not a very large session. We have all our drums here are all software-based stuff and samples. So we have a couple of kick drums here. We have an electronic snare, again, which is a sample. Overheads left and right. I believe that came out of, I want to say Stephen Slate SSD5, I believe is the drum program that he used. Then we have some bongos and some percussions, again, all samples of vinyl scratch, like a which is kind of cool. We have a bunch of clap tracks here that he played, obviously claps, a bunch of claps. We have a bass guitar, which I believe he played the bass and then used Easy Bass, I think, as the amp sim, a bass slide. Then we got a couple of plucked guitars, all the acoustic guitars here. We got several acoustics, all those Brandon played. We have an electric guitar, I believe that's played as well with a real amp. And then we have a series of vocal tracks here in red. We have our main lead vocal, and then I copied that track and then added the H3000 plugin. It escapes me, Eventide, H3000 plugin to that to give it a little bit of thickness, but it's really low in the mix. Then there's some ad-lib tracks in the bridge. You heard a rap vocal and then some doubles. And then we have a bunch of background vocals and then a bunch of gang vocals at the end. So it's a pretty small session. I think it was 28 tracks here on the console. So what I'd like to do here maybe is just break this down by section, kind of tell you how I process it. I'm not going to give you all the EQ moves, but just kind of let you listen. So let's start off with our drums here. So we have our couple of kick drums, our snare drum, our two overheads. We could do the we could probably do the bongos and the percussion all in one. It's not a full-on drum kit. So did I route that all the same? I think I did. Okay, cool. So, and we could do the bongos and the percussion. So here's kind of what we have for our drum sound, our finished drum sound. is a combination of some bongos, some shakers, and all that. So the 2 kick drums are samples. They sound a little bit different. So I took those 2 drums, I EQ'd them, and I brought them out to 2 separate faders on the console. The snare only comes in, I think in the chorus section is where a snare comes in. Kind of right here, you'll hear the electronic snare. So that's the snare sounds. Okay, so that's the groove of the whole song. It's not a typical drum kit. All of that is being routed down to a drum bus. There's only EQ on those 2 kick tracks, snares, the overheads, the bongos, oh no, then the overheads. There's no compression on any of the individual tracks. That is coming down to a drum bus, and on that drum bus, I have the Wes Audio NG bus compressor as my drum bus. And then from there, it gets patched into the API 5500 EQ, where I'm boosting a bunch of low end at like 50 Hertz. I think I'm boosting like 9 dB, taking a little bit out at 500 and then boosting some on the top end. So if I were to, let's see here, I could probably do this one pretty easily. If I were to, let's see, give you the NG bus compressor here on the screen. Oh, let's get this thing. There we go, and then let's get that on the screen here. If we play this back. So what I can do is I'll take away that bus compressor, I'll bypass the EQ. So here's what that drum sound sounded like, the kick, the snares, the overheads. So not bad, but we wanted to give it a little bit of thickness, or actually I wanted to give it a lot of thickness because that is the groove of the song. That's what you're kind of bopping to, is that kick drum. So I wanted to be deep, thick, pointy, and I wanted to really hit you in the chest. So if I bring in first the NG bus compressor and then the EQ, here's what you would get. So it just really tightens up, gives a little bit more thickness. It kind of glues it together. I love the combination of the NG bus compressor into that API 5500 EQ. To me, that is killer on drums, killer. Everything I put it on, every track, every session I use that combination. I'm just really happy with the way it sounds for now. So that's our drum setup and our drum processing. Let's see, after that we have our 2 bongos and percussion, which we're playing here. Let me mute the drums here. If you listen to just the bongo track and the percussion, which is like shakers, by all that stuff. So there's just some EQ on there to brighten things up and to take and do a little bit of a low cut filter. And then for compression, I'm using the SSL 611 Dynamics in the rack. I have 11 of those. Those were the E series that would have been on this console back in the 80s and 90s. It would have been part of this console. The Origin doesn't have Dynamics. So I'm just running those 2 through there, and I'm just clipping about 3 dB, not really hitting it very hard, just enough to kind of tighten it in and make it a little tighter. I could take out the compression here. Here's without that compression. So it really helps on the claps in particular. It keeps that first clap from jumping out of the mix too much. It just kind of tightens it up. That's all I did with that. And then we got, well, the little vinyl scratch here, the little, little sound effect here. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, what else do we got here? Next up we have Our claps track, that is not being compressed at all. There's two separate tracks just for claps here at the end of the song, which is here. Sounded really consistent to me in the track. I really didn't need to do anything with it, so I just EQ'd it and blended it in. Then we have our bass. Here we have a bass and a bass slide. Put that over here. So the bass, I believe, is played by Brandon, and then he used Easy Bass, TuneTrack's Easy Bass for the amp sound. That, again, from a compression perspective, is going through another one of the SSL 611 Dynamics, the E-Series. So with the compress, without compression, we have this. So it really tucks it in because it is pretty dynamic. The bow, 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 pokes out way too much without that. With the compressor, kind of tucks it right in. It lowers the volume a little bit because there's not a makeup gain on the actual SSL E-Series. It kind of does it under the hood. So the level matching is not perfect, but it glues it together really nice, and it keeps that transient from poking out too much. So again, without the compressor, and then there's just a separate track here for when he slides in. And I believe this is, again, Easy Bass. Slides into that bass line. So that's our bass, pretty straightforward, just using the SSL 611 and a little bit of EQ on this as well. Then we have these two, kind of one of the hook parts of the song from a guitar perspective, these two plucked guitars here. And again, I believe that's a sample. I don't think that's played in any way. That's a sample from a sample library. I believe that is from, I think he said maybe Native Instruments. Either way, it doesn't matter. Again, only EQ, no compression on that at all. And it just kind of blends in. So now when you're kind of playing all of those back here, if I bring in the rest of what we have so far, just to put it in context for you, I'll solo all these up. Oops. Let's get rid of that, solo, 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 solo. So here is all of that kind of together. Okay, so that's all of that in context. And there's some reverb on that as well. I'm using the audio-scape XL305 on everything in just a little bit of small doses, and that's the only reverb that's really used. The only one reverb I use for everything in the song. I didn't use the Neve AMS on this track because I didn't feel like we really needed it. Our next two tracks here are our acoustic left and right here. Here's our acoustic guitars. Those are the main acoustic guitars. Those are going down to a guitar bus left and right, and those are being put, let's see, we have a compressor on that. We're using the West Audio RIA, which is the tube compressor, on all the acoustic guitars. We have these two acoustics, and then we have a couple of acoustic guitars coming up next, little riffs and little licks and little leads and stuff. All the acoustics come down to a bus here, and everything is going through the RIA. So here's the RIA on the screen. Let it loop around. Come on. So it just kind of glues it together using the total harmonic distortion circuit in the RIA, which I really like. This compressor sounds wonderful on acoustic guitars. It's a tube bass compressor, highly recommended. It's all digitally controlled with a plug-in, but it's an analog circuit path. It's really cool. So those guitars, we have 2 more acoustic guitars, an acoustic guitar lead, a guitar riff. So we have a bunch of acoustics here, all kind of playing together, all going to that bus here. So here is some of that, so you could hear some of that. So we got that little lick here. That guitar riff is going to, what compressor did I use on that? That is going to another one of the SSL 611 Dynamics, that little lick, that little lead lick here, coming up. That's going to a 611 Dynamic, and that's compressing about 6 dB or so. Really, really nice. Then we have an electric guitar track coming down next to that here. We can get rid of this, and it's just a chug thing. Again, I believe this is an amp simulator software, but I believe he played this with, with a real guitar. Pretty straightforward. Again, we're using an SSL 611 Dynamic on that as well. So we're using quite a bit. I have 11 of them. We're not using all of them, but we're using quite a bit of those 611 Dynamics. They're great. Those VCA compressors are just awesome. And that's all the instrumentation up to this point. So if we just kind of listen back to the instruments, I'll mute the vocals here. If we just kind of listen to all the instrumentation, here's what we kind of have here. What I'll do is I'll take away the reverb. You'll see it up top here, maybe on the overhead cam. Red light is on, means it's bypassed. No red light means it's in the circuit. So I'll start with it in and I'll take it away. It's very subtle. Brandon didn't want a lot of reverb on this track, and it really doesn't need it, but there's enough there. It just gives it a little bit of size. Hopefully you'll hear it over YouTube. Let's give it a listen. Makes a big difference here in the room. Not sure how it comes across on YouTube, but that little goes a long way. If anyone's looking for a hardware reverb that's analog, spring reverb, that's a little different than the run-of-the-mill stuff that you see out there. Not that the run-of-the-mill's bad. Lexicon, Bricasti, all that stuff is awesome. But if you want something a little different, that's affordable, that's in that ballpark, but just sounds great on anything you put through it, check out that audio-scape XL305. I got it parked right here, and everything goes through it in just little doses. It just gives that whole mix a little sense of dimension, a little sense of size, and gets rid of all that bone dry sounds. So it's an awesome, awesome reverb. And we did a full review on it on the channel. You should go check out the review and go pay audio-scape a visit, because they're awesome people and they make awesome gear. And there's a ton of audio-scape on this mix, especially in the vocals. Speaking of vocals, so we have a lead vocal here. So our lead vocal here is a lead vocal, Brandon, obviously, and then we have, what I did is I duplicated the track here. If you want to look here in Studio One, we duplicated the track, or I did, and then I put, this is a cool plug-in here. This is the Eventide 3000 Factory 2, which is probably, I mean, it's got a million presets in here, from micro shifting, as all kinds of stuff. Go check this out. It's a little pricey. It's about a $350 plugin, but you get it on sale for probably half of that right around Black Friday. Usually that's when that happens, and that's when I think I bought mine. But I use this a lot on vocals. There's a preset in here called the 231 micro pitch shift, and I tweaked it a little bit. And I just put that on the lead, I put it on that second lead vocal track and just kind of blended a little bit, just to give a little bit of something to his vocal. I didn't use too much, but if I solo up the vocal, here it is.
I won't risk doing this talking thing.
Go back to the verse. Let's listen to the verse, and I'll take it in and out. I'll mute it here.
I'm just gonna stop myself right here. And before I get way deep into trouble, I was never good expressing my emotions. In the moment, let me spare you before I stumble. Let me think about it for a while. And put up my feet and soak. Maybe even grab a joint and take a toke.
And it just puts a little bit of that micro pitch on there, which I love. And then when you blend it in the track, you don't even really notice it all that much.
Here's an idea, what if I sing? 'Cause I won't risk doing this talking thing. I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking.
So I use that H3000 quite a lot. I use it a lot in a lot of my tracks. Again, sometimes more than others. Sometimes it's a little more obvious. Sometimes it's a little more subtle. But I like that because it just gives a little bit of thickness in there. And that plugin's fantastic. It's, you know, one of the few plugins that I use in this mixing setup that I really, really like. So that's the lead vocal. And on that lead vocal, we're using for compression, we're using the audio-scape 76F. Compressor, which again, we did a full review on the channel. You should go check that out. It's another amazing piece of equipment. And that is going into probably my second or first or second favorite piece in this entire hardware rack, which is the audio-scape EQP, which is the Pultec. And I mean, I put every single vocal I have through a Pultec just about. I got to get another one. That's how much I love that. The other EQ I love just as much as that, but for a different reason and for a different use, is that API 5500, which I've talked about. So the lead vocal is going through the 76F into the audio-scape EQP. That's what we're doing there. So if I give you that lead vocal without compression and EQ, here's kind of where this is where we started.
I'm just gonna stop myself right here. And before I get way deep into trouble, I was never good expressing my emotions. In the moment, let me spare you before I stumble. Let me think about it for a while. Put up my feet and soak. Maybe even grab a joint and take a toke.
And we're doing about 7 dB of compression, and yeah, it's not level matched. I didn't even care. It just sounded so good, I just left it. That 76F is magic, man. It's magic on any vocal. I love all three of their compressors, the audio-scape. We have the blue stripe, and we have the black face, the D. But that 76F, man, on a male vocal, I don't know what it is. It's just my favorite. I love it. And the EQP, what else can you say about a Pultec, right? So that's the lead vocal. Then we have some ad-libs that he kind of, you know, bounces, you know, does against that lead vocal as well in the chorus of the song. And then we go to the bridge and we have this kind of breakdown rap section, which is really cool, really interesting. Let you listen to that quickly. So here is our rap section coming up.
Why do it have to be stuck in my head? Double as a bull. You're guaranteed to get the horn unless you contain the wild beast with a sweet, sweet song. Ooh. And talking to me is like a slippery slope. You might as well be talking to a mumbling dope. Who doesn't know what the hell he's talking about? Even if he's got every single word written down.
So that, just like on the lead vocal, I use the H3000 on that as well, on that lead vocal, on that rap, the lead section there, to kind of just thicken it up a little bit. And then for compressor, I use the audio-scape 76D. There's also a lead vocal double, a rap vocal double there. That double track is going into the DBX 160A. And then just using the EQ on the SSL. So if I kind of take away the compressor on these two tracks, here we go.
Why do it have to be stuck in my head, stubborn as a bull? You're guaranteed to get the horns unless you can tame the wild beast with a sweet, sweet song. Ooh. And talking to me is like a slippery slope. You might as well be talking to a mumbling dope. Who doesn't know what the hell he's talking about? Even if you got every single word written down, it's so hard to spit out. It's so hard to spit out. But if you give me a chance to say what I'm saying, you'll be fully aware and more able to understand.
Really straightforward. Really straightforward. Then we have lastly, we have two background vocal tracks and some gang vocals. So our background vocals are kind of coming up here in the chorus. Those have, let's see, for compressors, one background vocal is using the audio-scape 76A, the blue stripe, and the other one is using the Blackline Audio Bluey, which is another blue stripe, completely different sounding, but I wanted them a little different sounding. So the background vocals are here.
I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking.
Okay, so without compression, we got this.
I don't know how you're doing it, but my words are better when sung, so I'll let the singing do the talking.
So again, we have some different octaves. We have a couple of different voices down, all coming down the two tracks. And again, the compressor just tightens it up, and we use a little bit of top-end EQ on the SSL. Most of the EQ here is all done with the SSL, with the exception of the lead vocal and the drum bus. That's the only ones. And then last but certainly not least, we have the gang vocals at the very end. Those gang vocals are going through for a compressor. They're going through the West Audio Dione. And it's just a bunch of gang vocals at the end that just make the song finish off. Sounds big. Let's see, we can get the Dione out here on the screen so you can see it. So here's our gang vocals. And that's all coming down to a bus as well. So here we go.
The singing, do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking. I don't know how you're doing it, but my words are better when sung, so I'll let the singing do the talking.
So on the Dione, we're doing about 12 to 16 dB of compression, doing a 2-to-1 ratio, and we're using, again, the THD distortion circuit. Again, it just kind of tightens it up so nothing jumps out too much. So in context, here's that part again with the compressor. Let me shrink this down here. Here we go. So in the mix, we have this.
I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking. I don't know how you're doing it, but my words are better when sung, so I'll let the singing do the talking. Ooh. I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking.
So there we go. So that is the gang vocals. And that's all of the tracks. Now everything is going down to the stereo bus, which is the SSL bus compressor, which again is on a 2-to-1 ratio, 10 millisecond attack, auto release, which is pretty much my standard setting. And we're probably compressing just about 4 dB of compression. From there, it is going to the SSL Fusion, where we have the drive circuit enabled. On the Violet EQ, we have a little bit of top, a little bit of bottom, couple of dB on the top and the bottom, just to kind of give us that low end, the low and the high end thing. And we're using the stereo widening. We're widening it out pretty good. And so I'll come back to the beginning here, and we can listen to how that affects the overall mix. So over the top on the camera, you'll see the SSL bus compressor. It's engaged here. Light goes out, it's out. The next to the master fader here, the insert for the Fusion, green light is on. No light is off. I'll take them both in and out at the same time so you can hear the effect of the SSL Fusion and the SSL G-Series bus compressor. Here we go.
Just gonna stop myself right here before I get way deep into trouble. I was never good expressing my emotions in the moment. Let me spare you before I stumble. Let me think about it for a while. Put up my feet and soak, maybe even grab a joint and take a toke. Here's an idea, what if I sing? 'Cause I won't risk doing this talking thing. I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking. I don't know how you do it.
So there's the Fusion and the G-Series bus compressor. Again, just glues it together, spreads it out a little bit, gets a little bit saturated, which is what we want from the Fusion. And then last but not least, when we're printing it in on the print track, there is some processing going on the print track on the way in, some plugins that I use to kind of finish it off here a little bit. So a couple things that I use on a lot of mixes. The first one being the Universal Audio K Stereo, which they call an ambient recovery plugin. It kind of acts like a stereo widener a little bit too, and you do get some more ambience out of it. So without it, here's what we have. Oh, sorry.
Let the singing do the talking. Ooh. I know that fights will happen sometimes, but just know that your love will always be enough. Always be enough.
So this really, you can feel it. Without this, it's straight up the middle, and as soon as you enable this, it pulls everything apart. I'm using the mid-side thing a little bit, giving just a tiny bit on the sides, a little bit of gain. Works really nice. From there, I'm going to the Moog EQ, the EQ4. I love this plugin. This will absolutely be my next purchase in hardware, the stereo unit of this. I use this on the master bus all the time. I got a little bit of sub happening, which I think is around 10 Hertz, a little bit of 40, and I got a shelf at 2.5K, and then I'm using a little bit of the airband at 40K. And so here's with it, and I'll take it away.
Impressing you is just like a game. I might win some, I might lose some, but you always make it tough. Always make it tough. Let me think about it for a while. Put up my feet and so maybe even
There we go. And now we're going to the Virtual Tape Machine by Slate Digital.
grab a joint and take a toke. Here's an idea, what if I sing? Because I won't risk doing this talking thing. I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking.
Get a little bit more of that low end. So along the way, between the drum bus EQ, between the Moog EQ, between the tape machine, adding a little bit more of that low end. The EQ on the Violet EQ, if you will, on the SSL Fusion, a little bit of low end, just keep kind of building that low end to make it nice and tight and focused. And then the last plugin I use at the very end here is in the choruses, I automate the stereo widening of this just a little bit on the ozone imager, just to get the chorus a little bit wider. Still, again, it's very subtle. I'll play it and then I'll bypass it here as we go through the chorus. Here's the chorus section.
I let the singing do the talking. I'd rather be running than maybe walking. I don't know how you're doing it, but my words are better with songs, so I'll let the singing do the talking. Ooh.
So again, it just kind of gets that chorus a little bit wider. And that's it. I mean, there's a lot going on there, but there really isn't a lot going on there. The key to this song, it's a really, really great song. It's well produced, it's well arranged, it's well recorded. And so most of the heavy lifting is being done by the SSL with, you know, a half a dozen different compressors, 10 different compressors throughout the mix, all throughout the hardware, and just kind of blending it together. So that's kind of the mix breakdown of Brandon Van Allen's Let the Singing Do the Talking. Again, go check out his links in the description box below, especially if you're someone who is looking for some training and some live lessons with Brandon on you know, guitar, piano, bass, voice, as well as production. He does production, teaching, songwriting classes. He does all of that stuff. He's a really, really great artist, and I'm really happy and honored to be the person that he chooses to mix his music, because I think he's got some really, really cool stuff. And if you are a member of mixingmadeeasy.net, my mixing membership website, Brandon, again, has been so kind to allow our community to mix this song as well as a few of his other songs for his new upcoming EP, which will be out sometime in mid-2023. So if you'd like to mix this song, you want to get on to mixingmadeeasy.net, you want to sign up for a subscription over there. Every month we mix a new style of music. We do it all in the box of plugins, although we did do a couple of months in 2022 on the console just to change it up a little. But we do it all in the box of plugins, and we get really, really cool multi-tracks. We do different styles of music every single month. We do a plugin, mixing contest every month. We do a live coaching call on YouTube every month. So it's a really good way if you want to brush up on your chops, especially if you work all in the box. We will be mixing Let the Singing Do the Talking sometime in the first quarter of 2023. So I hope you enjoyed this little mix breakdown of Brandon Van Allen's Let the Singing Do the Talking. Once again, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Go out to Brandon's website, check it out, and see what he's got going on over there. And until the next video, I've been Dave with Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com. Thank you so very much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.